Have you ever bought something you have been dreaming about for months or maybe even years?
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Picture it. It could be that high-end gadget you've been watching reviews of at 2 a.m. or the luxury car you finally saved enough for, or even the keys to the perfect house.
You finally get it.
Yes, you are holding it in your hands. And for a brief, shining moment, the world just feels completely aligned. But then, day 4 rolls around.
As reality sets in.
Exactly. Have you ever noticed how that immense, overwhelming joy barely survives a long weekend? Why does the thrill of a major life-changing purchase vanish almost instantly, leaving us right back where we started, just immediately scanning the horizon for the next thing to buy or achieve or conquer?
It is a completely universal frustration.
Okay.
I mean, it points to a really profound glitch in how the human mind actually processes satisfaction.
A glitch.
Yeah, we're essentially running on this outdated hardware that completely misinterprets what actually brings us peace.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. We are stepping into the psychology of wealth, happiness, and the human mind. And we're drawing from the incredible insights laid out in the Almanack of Naval Ravikant.
Our mission today is to uncover these hidden psychological traps that keep us feeling chronically unfulfilled. We're going to explore a radical framework for achieving both ambitious, outsized success and, importantly, profound inner peace.
Because the ideas we are unpacking today really require a complete paradigm shift. I mean, this isn't about feeling a little bit better or finding a cute new morning routine.
No, not at all. It is about fundamentally dismantling and rewiring how you perceive your own wants, your own suffering, and your own ambition.
So I want to dissect this 3-day phenomenon first because it honestly drives me crazy in my own life. I hit the milestone, I get the thing, and suddenly the magic just evaporates. It feels like a betrayal.
Yeah.
What is the actual mechanism behind this fleeting joy?
So you are experiencing a really well-documented psychological mechanism called hedonic adaptation.
Hedonic adaptation.
Right. Human beings possess this terrifyingly efficient ability to normalize new circumstances. So whether you win the lottery or suffer a terrible loss, your brain aggressively pulls you back to a baseline level of happiness.
Wow, aggressive's a good word for it.
Yeah, but the source material highlights a crucial distinction here. Hedonic adaptation is uniquely ruthless when it comes to man-made static objects.
Wait, meaning we adapt differently to a car than we do to something natural?
Completely differently. We adapt to artificial external objects, so cars, houses, designer clothes, bank account numbers, almost instantly.
Really? Just like that?
Yeah, you buy the luxury car, and within a week, your brain recategorizes it from dream realized to the metal box that takes me to the grocery store.
That is so depressing, but so true.
But we do not adapt as quickly to dynamic, natural things, like a really great meal, a heavy physical workout, a genuinely funny conversation with a friend. Those continue to give us a real sustained neurochemical reward over time.
Okay, there is this revealing anecdote from Naval in the sources that I think illustrates this trap perfectly. He talks about ordering a new car.
Oh, right, the car forum story.
Yes. While he is waiting for it to arrive, he finds himself spending every single night on car forums. He is obsessing over the tire specifications, the interior stitching, just building up this massive mountain of
Anticipation, that dopamine hit.
Exactly. But then he has this sudden moment of clarity. He realizes that the instant the car is actually parked in his garage, he is going to completely stop caring about it.
And that realization is the key to the whole puzzle. He recognizes the object itself is totally irrelevant. His addiction is entirely to the anticipation.
Right.
He is addicted to the thrill of the desiring, the fantasy that this external piece of metal is somehow going to reach inside his brain and permanently flip a switch from unhappy to happy.
And the source actually calls this the fundamental delusion. It is this deeply ingrained belief that changing something in the outside world will permanently fix your internal landscape.
Which is impossible.
Yeah, I mean, think of it like this. It's like thinking that putting a pristine, expensive new phone case on your phone is somehow going to fix a corrupted operating system.
That's a great analogy.
Right. You are just dressing up the outside, but the internal software is still constantly crashing.
Worse than that, you're actually degrading the software further by adding more expectations. Because reality itself is neutral. The universe doesn't possess judgments.
It just is.
Exactly. A car is just a car. A house is just wood and glass. It is only our minds that overlay this intense judgment, deciding things are perfect or imperfect based solely on what we desire in that specific fraction of a second.
So if the new car smell always wears off, and we inherently know this, like from decades of life experience, why are we so blind to it? Why do we keep walking into the exact same trap?
We really do.
We are just convinced that this time the new house or the new promotion will be the one that finally makes us permanently happy. Why?
Well, because we are fighting a massive two-front war against our own DNA and our social programming. We are biologically designed for this exact cycle.
Biologically?
Yeah. You have to look at what you actually are. You are a biological survival and replication machine. Nature does not care if you are happy.
Right. Nature doesn't care about our feelings.
Happiness is completely a fictional human construct. Nature only cares that you survive long enough to pass on your genes.
Which makes sense because we evolved in an environment of absolute scarcity. Like if a prehistoric human stumbled across a calorie-dense food source, the brain didn't say, oh, I am deeply content, I will leave the rest for tomorrow.
No, not at all.
The brain flooded them with panic and said, consume all of this immediately because winter is coming and you might literally starve.
Exactly right. Our genes are just screaming at us to hoard. They want to say yes to everything. Yes to sugar, yes to acquiring more resources, yes to raising our social status.
Because status meant survival.
Right. In a tribal setting, high status meant you didn't get left behind to freeze. So our bodies literally lack the software to say, enough. We are navigating an era of unprecedented modern abundance. I mean, you can order a feast to your door from a supercomputer in your pocket, but we are processing all of it through ancient, scarcity-driven survival software.
Okay, so it makes total sense that our DNA is essentially tricking us to hoard resources for survival. But that ancient software is colliding with something much newer and louder, modern society.
Yeah.
How is the modern world, like, pouring gasoline on this biological fire?
So society hijacks that biological drive and redirects it into what Naval calls multiplayer competitive games.
Multiplayer games?
Yeah, these are games where your status is entirely determined by a comparative scorecard. Like who has the biggest house? Who raised the most venture capital? Who has the most aesthetic vacation photos online?
And the really insidious thing about multiplayer games is that they are inherently unwinnable. You can never achieve permanent victory because society controls the goalposts.
And society is constantly moving them. Precisely. You finally buy the BMW, and society immediately updates the leaderboard to tell you that the people who really matter are driving Ferraris.
It's exhausting.
The leaderboard refreshes every single day, and by obsessing over these multiplayer games, we totally lose the ability to play single-player games.
Single-player games being the internal pursuits.
Yes. Pursuits where the only scorecard is your own internal progression. So, physical fitness, reading, meditation, deep work. You are only competing against who you were yesterday.
Because society can't move the goalposts on your own mental clarity.
Exactly.
So when you combine that ancient biological panic with modern society's rigged multiplayer games, you don't just get a hamster wheel, you get an endless, unquittable software update loop.
That's a terrifying way to put it.
We are biologically pushed into the download. Society tells us the update will finally fix our lives, but the progress bar never hits 100%. We just keep running.
And that constant running is the real source of modern anxiety. There is a brilliant reference to the philosopher Blaise Pascal in the texts. He says, all of man's troubles arise because he cannot sit in a room quietly by himself.
Just sitting there.
Yeah. If you attempt to just sit on a couch with no phone, no music, and do absolutely nothing, you will quickly feel this overwhelming sense of unease and anxiety.
Your skin starts to crawl.
Right. That physical sensation is the treadmill running in your mind, demanding you get back to hoarding resources or defending your status.
Okay, so if the game is fundamentally rigged against us, and we are both biologically and socially brainwashed to keep playing, we have to find an exit strategy. Like, we need to fundamentally redefine what it actually means to want something.
We really do. And this brings us to the most hardcore, paradigm-shifting concept in the entire source text. It is a complete redefinition of desire.
Okay, let's hear it.
The quote is, desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want.
I just need to repeat that because it literally stops you in your tracks. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want.
It completely flips our cultural narrative on its head, doesn't it?
Totally.
We are taught that desire is a purely positive force. It's ambition, it's drive, it's having a big vision for your life. But this framework forces you to look at the hidden invoice.
The fine print.
Exactly. Every single time you say, I want that, you are simultaneously declaring, I am fundamentally lacking, and my life is inadequate until I acquire that specific thing.
So you are actively choosing to sever your current peace of mind.
Yeah.
And we walk around all day unconsciously signing dozens of these contracts without even realizing it.
Hundreds of them. Your alarm goes off and you sign a contract to be unhappy until you get coffee.
Oh, guilty.
You get in the car and you sign a contract to be miserable until the traffic clears. You get to the office and you sign a contract to be anxious until your boss validates your project. We outsource our internal emotional state to entirely uncontrollable external factors, and then we're bewildered as to why we feel totally exhausted by noon.
Okay, I'm struggling with this contract idea, though. I mean, I need to push back on this a little.
Go for it.
If desire literally equates to guaranteed unhappiness, shouldn't we just abandon all ambition? Like, if I completely stop desiring to grow my business, it goes bankrupt. If I stop desiring to be healthy, my body breaks down. Are we supposed to just become monks, sit in the dirt, and let the world pass us by?
No, it is a really vital distinction to make. Naval's philosophy doesn't advocate for nihilism or sitting in the dirt. We are biologically and spiritually meant to act in the world.
Okay.
The source text uses this fascinating physics metaphor to explain this. It says humans exist to locally reverse entropy.
Okay, wait. I am going to need I'm 5 for locally reversing entropy.
Sure. So in physics, the universe trends toward entropy, which is chaos, decay, and disorder. Left alone, everything eventually falls apart.
Like an abandoned building.
Exactly. But human beings have the unique capacity to apply energy to create order.
Yeah.
Think of a pile of raw lumber, nails, and concrete. It is high entropy, it is chaotic.
Right.
It requires immense human energy, focus, and action to assemble those chaotic materials into a low entropy, functional house. Building the house is necessary. Acting in the world is our natural state.
So the ambition to build the house isn't the problem itself.
Right, the action is not the problem. The problem is making an unconscious contract that you are going to be miserable during the entire 6 months it takes to build the house. The goal isn't to kill off all action. The goal is to stop signing contracts of unhappiness on autopilot. You can pursue a massive goal without attaching your baseline emotional stability to the outcome.
Okay, so we must act. We want to create order, but we want to avoid this endless unconscious suffering. How do we practically control the spread of our desires? Like, how do we hack our own ambition so it doesn't destroy us?
Well, the source offers a brilliantly simple framework for exactly this. It starts with the rule of 3 choices. Whenever you face any situation in life, you always have exactly 3 valid options. You can change it, you can accept it, or you can leave it.
Change it, accept it, or leave it.
Those are the only functional paths. What is absolutely toxic is the 4th, unwritten option most people choose.
Like his.
Sitting around wishing the situation would change while taking 0 action. Wishing you could leave your job but staying and complaining.
Oh, that hits close to home for a lot of people.
Yeah. That state of passive aversion, fighting reality in your mind without actually moving your feet, that is the engine of human misery.
I want to pull you, the listener, into this right now. Really think about the one thing stressing you out the most at work or in your personal life today. Are you actively taking steps to change it? Are you planning to leave? Or are you just sitting at your desk, soaking in the aversion, wishing reality was different?
Because that wishing is a contract of unhappiness, you are choosing to renew every single day.
And if you do choose to change it, you have to recognize what that means, right? Choosing to change a situation is a desire.
Yes, it is a contract. It will cause you friction and suffering until you successfully change it. Because of that heavy cost, the ultimate life hack presented in the sources is this. Pick exactly one big desire at any given time to serve as your singular purpose.
Just one.
Only one. The text is very explicit about this. It warns that even one core desire is incredibly difficult to manage. If you want to achieve outsized success in any specific area while maintaining your sanity, you have to ruthlessly protect your mental bandwidth.
Right. Think of your brain's processing power like a computer browser. You can have one main tab open, running a massive, heavy program. That is your core life goal right now. Maybe it's launching your startup, raising your kid, or transforming your physical health.
That's your one desire.
But what happens when you open 20 tabs of desires? You have a tab open for wanting a bigger house, a tab for wanting to be fluent in French, a tab for wishing you were a better cook, a tab for wishing your neighbor wasn't annoying.
Your mental CPU maxes out.
Exactly. The fan starts spinning. You crash into generalized anxiety. You have to force quit the other tabs.
The browser analogy captures the mental drain perfectly. You leave your one heavy tab open, and you dedicate your active energy to it. But for all those other tabs, you deploy the word accept.
Accept!
You practice radical indifference to all the other temptations, social comparisons, and daily frictions.
How do you actually practice radical acceptance, though? I mean, just accept it is really easy to say, but when someone cuts you off in traffic, the anger is just automatic.
Well, it requires an active cognitive reframe. It isn't passive. It's almost like a defensive mental martial art. When a minor annoyance happens, instead of defaulting to anger, you train yourself to instantly ask, what is the positive angle of this exact situation?
You force your brain to find a benefit.
Yes. Okay, you are stuck in a massive traffic jam. You are going to be late. The baseline reaction is fury. But the reframe is asking, what is the benefit to me right now?
Well, I am safe in my car.
Right. I have 30 uninterrupted minutes to listen to an audiobook. I am actually missing the most boring part of the morning meeting.
True.
And even if a situation is so objectively bad that you cannot find a direct positive, you can reframe it by saying, well, the universe has just handed me an opportunity to practice patience.
It sounds super stoic, but it is deeply practical.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You are effortlessly interpreting events so that your internal peace remains untouched.
So you pour all of your active, aggressive ambition into your one chosen desire, your one conscious contract. And for the 99% of reality that falls outside of that desire, you just drop the arrogant expectation that the universe needs to conform to your personal preferences.
Because anger is really just a loss of control. It is a reaction to reality not bending to your will. By practicing acceptance on everything outside your core desire, you completely eliminate the constant background radiation of anger that exhausts most people.
We have covered some really intense philosophical ground today. We started with the fatal illusion that buying the next shiny object will fix our internal software.
The 3-day joy.
Yeah. We looked at how our ancient biology and modern society's rigged multiplayer games trick us onto the desire treadmill. We fundamentally redefine desire as a contract of unhappiness.
A huge shift.
And we explored the survival strategy of maintaining just one core desire while ruthlessly accepting the rest of reality.
It is a totally radical departure from the default human operating system.
Which brings us right back to you listening to this. Because information without execution is just entertainment. Look at the landscape of your own mind right now. How many micro-contracts of unhappiness did you sign before breakfast today?
Are you currently carrying tension in your job because your coffee wasn't quite hot enough?
Or because a coworker sent a blunt email? Because you saw someone on social media living a life you think you should have?
You really have to audit those contracts.
Yeah.
Are they worth the massive tax they are levying on your daily peace of mind?
And the most important question. If you could only keep one active tab, which is the one core desire you actually want to dedicate your suffering to, what is the one mission worth the friction while you gracefully let the rest of the noise go?
You know, to truly let the noise go, we have to touch on the final, most striking perspective shift in the source material. If you are struggling to practice acceptance, Naval relies on this ultimate philosophical trump card.
The ultimate hack for acceptance. It completely shifted my perspective when I read it, even though, honestly, it initially sounds incredibly dark.
He advocates for actively embracing the reality of death.
Which feels like a really jarring pivot. We are talking about happiness, and suddenly we are staring into the abyss.
It feels dark, but it is actually the ultimate liberation from the pressure we put on ourselves. The text points out that so much of our manic ambition, our desperation to win those multiplayer games, is essentially just a thinly veiled quest for immortality.
We want to leave a legacy.
Right. We want to build a company that outlasts us. We want to be remembered.
Yeah.
But the brutal, beautiful reality is that legacy is a vanity project. There is no legacy.
Because the universe has been around for billions of years, and it will be here long after our sun burns out. Our entire lives are just a firefly blink in the night.
The source uses the Sumerians to illustrate this perfectly. The Sumerians were a massive, historically dominant civilization. They invented the wheel, they developed early writing, they built massive cities. They did incredible things.
But today...
Can anyone name a single prominent Sumerian off the top of their head?
Definitely not.
Right. 10,000 years from now, every skyscraper, every startup, every social media empire, and every memory of us will just be dust.
When you really let that sink in, it completely dismantles your daily anxieties. It shrinks all of our massive life-ruining problems down to absolute zero.
Exactly.
If you are agonizing because you failed at your one core desire, or because someone insulted your reputation, or you lost a chunk of money, in the grand scheme of the cosmos, it fundamentally does not matter.
And that is exactly where the freedom lies. If nothing you do is going to leave a permanent scratch on the universe, then you are officially released from the burden of taking yourself so seriously.
You are free.
You are free to view your life, your ambitions, and your struggles as just a temporary game.
So you might as well enjoy the game of trying. You act in the world, you build the house, you locally reverse entropy, but you do it playfully.
Yes.
You project some love, you appreciate the absurdity of the moment, and you laugh a little bit while you're here because you are not tying your intrinsic worth to a permanent outcome.
The outcome is already guaranteed.
Okay.
We all return to dust. The only thing that truly, tangibly exists is this exact moment in space and time. You are dying and being reborn in every single second.
It is a profound realization. The next time you find yourself obsessively refreshing a tracking number or agonizing over a promotion, desperately hoping it will finally plug that hole of lacking inside you, you remember what you actually are.
A survival machine.
Yes, running outdated software, getting tricked by a rigged societal game. Do not put a shiny new phone case on a crashing operating system. Cancel the unconscious contracts. Force quit the extra tabs. Pick the one desire that truly matters to you and let the rest of the universe just be exactly what it is.